Happy Rosh Hashanah or Osher Yom Teruah. And I do appreciate people giving me feedback, correct feedback, even correction. And yes, I was admonished about what this day really is. It is actually Yom Teruah, the day of the blowing of the shofar. Now, what I want to do is talk a little bit about, let's go ahead and get my Google up here. Before I start with this particular article, I want to go to Revelation. Hold on. Revelation 9. There's been a lot of talk about Revelation 9 over the past week or two by Christian leaders, mainly by Dmitry Medvedev, predicting Revelation 9 verse 17 and 18. And as I pointed out last week in my previous video, I reminded all my listeners that back in April, in the springtime of this year, I was made aware of what the colors of Revelation 9 in the sixth shofar sound, these colors. The horse, I saw horses in the vision. Not them that sat on it, the horses. No. It says, to be seated on them, having breastplates of the colors of fire, of jacinth and brimstone. And I was able to deduce, to connect that particular part of the vision with the Yars, Russian Yars ICBMs. And on those Yars ICBMs, you know, they're rolling mobile nuclear missile launchers. On the breastplate of those mobile launchers is the color of jacinth and brimstone. Not black and orange as it was in the Soviet days and before the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, but black and yellow, just like jacinth. You Google up jacinth, you'll see the colors are black and orange or black and yellow, and sometimes black and orange and yellow. And you can see, it says the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions. So they weren't horses. These were mobile. Horses are mobile, extremely mobile. The heads were wide like lion's head, and out of their mouth came fire and smoke and brimstone. The missile is laid down in a mouth that turns up on the Yars mobile missile launcher, if you care to go and take a look at it. By these three, or the third part of men killed by fire and by the smoke. Now, if How are a third of the people going to be killed by the smoke? Because the atmosphere is able to dissipate smoke quickly. But nuclear smoke, not so quickly. And by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. The power is in their head, or in their mouth, and in their tails. And indeed, when you look at the Yars mobile ICBM launcher, it is indeed. The power sets in the mouth when it's laying down, but it's in the tail when it's standing up. Their tails look like serpents' tails, and their tails had heads. Today, I believe we call them warheads, and this is how they injure, do wrong, act wickedly. Now, Isaiah 66. Set this up for this article. By fire and by sword. Verse 16, for by the fire and by the sword will Jehovah judge all flesh, and the slain of Jehovah shall be many. It says here, Jehovah will come with fire and a chariot, like a whirlwind, like a sea whirlwind. In fact, the United States and I believe Japan now is experiencing a sea whirlwind. And render his anger with fury, and his rebuke will be with flame of fire. Now, in Zechariah 2, it's called a plague from Jehovah. Like I said, once just to get context here, folks. Zechariah 14. Now this is the plague that Jehovah will smite all the people who have ever fought against Jerusalem. That's just about everybody. So he's going to smite them with a plague. What kind of a plague? Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Because that day a great tumult, confusion, discomfort will come from Jehovah. So something that Jehovah is going to do is going to trigger this nuclear exchange. What is it that he's going to do? It says, they will lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor. It's actually starting. Russia and Ukraine. And his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And now China wants to do it to Taiwan. India and Pakistan want to go at it. Armenia and Azerbaijan wants to get started. Greece and Turkey. Everybody's got their guns pointing at each other. Okay? Jehovah is going to cause this. How is he going to do it? The answer is in Revelation 9 and verse 13. The sixth messenger sounded. When do these shofar sounds occur? My guess is, notice I said guess, is on a day of Yom Teruah, the day of the blowing of the shofar, and one of them is today. Now there was another one last year, and before that, etc. And I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before Jehovah, saying to the sixth messenger which had the shofar. So the one who's blowing the shofar is ordered to loose the four messengers which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And as I have over and over again for the past 5-6 years talked about how Russia, Turkey, United States, France, whoever else had been trampling all over the Euphrates River in this war in Syria, and think nothing is going to come of it. So, the four messengers were loosed. Okay. Prepare. To prepare. It's actually to prepare. For an hour, day, and a month, and a year. So they are preparing. The preparation time is an hour, a day, a month, and a year, if I'm reading this correctly. Okay? Now before I've assumed that this great war, this nuclear exchange takes place from the start to beginning of this 1 hour, 1 day, a month, and a year. But I don't quite think so now, because of the way it's worded. They prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the third part of men. Nuclear exchange, if anybody bothers to watch movies, read, study about it, this thing will happen suddenly. It won't take that long. But the preparation, as you can plainly see here, the word is the or cause loosed. The or caused to prepare. They were caused to prepare an hour, a day, and a month, and a year. So the preparation time is an hour, a day, and a month, and a year. Now it talks about the number of the army, and the numbers were not 200,000, but 2 myrius. Now, I don't know what the Hebrew word for myriad is. But Jonah heard a number. We only got 2 myriads. He heard the number of them. Okay? So now I'm thinking, if it takes, before I don't want to get cart before the horse here. Now what we're going to do is go to this particular article. The fear of setting the planet on fire with a nuclear weapon. The idea of a nuclear bomb accidentally setting the planet on fire was once a fear shared by many. Which, of course, why Hitler did not use them. Look, he may have had him. So we'll read about this first. In Inside the Third Reich, a memoir by Albert Speer, the former Minister of Armament of Nazi Germany, recalls an exchange he had with the physicist Werner Heisenberg and Adolf Hitler. Heisenberg had not given any final answer to my question whether a successful nuclear fission could be kept under control with absolute certainty or might continue as a chain reaction. Actually, an atom bomb. No, it was a hydrogen bomb. The first hydrogen bomb that the Americans detonated, the folks who were there, the people who detonated it, thought they had lost control of it. Okay? Hitler was plainly not delighted with the possibility that the Earth under his rule might be transformed into a glowing star. By 1942, Germany had mostly given up on trying to develop a nuclear bomb, largely due to logistics reasons, while the U.S. plowed ahead with the Manhattan Project and became the first nation equipped with nuclear weapons. But how serious was the concern that these bombs might set the entire world on fire? By the time Enrico Fermi jokingly took bets amongst his Los Alamos colleagues on whether the July 16, 1945 Trinity test would wipe out all earthbound life, physicists already knew about the impossibility of setting the atmosphere on fire. Oh no, Peter. Cephas, not Peter. I'll have to do a video on that one of these days. You see, the Christians, they changed the name of Cephas to Peter in order to make the graven image of Jupiter, and they turned that into a cathedral for Peter. But see, Simon Cephas' name was never Peter. The word Peter is associated with Pater, which is associated with Satan. But anyway, I digress. But for the sake of using Bible Hub, and for English speakers, it is 2 Peter 3, I do believe. I think it is. Right. Now, but the day of Jehovah will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall do what? Pass away, pass out of sight. Probably exploding. And the elements, with a great noise, the heavens, the atmosphere blowing up with a great noise, and the elements shall loose, to release, to dissolve, to melt with fervent heat, or burn up. The earth and also the works that are therein shall be burned up. So we read in Zechariah 14 that Jehovah is going to cause men to do it to each other. He's going to create an atmosphere of tumult against the Gentiles. So, they wanted to laugh about it. The impossibility of setting the atmosphere on fire. Well, we just read in 2nd Cephas that the atmosphere will be on fire. And we read how and by what method? By warfare. With Hans Beth, published by Scientific American, an interview. Beth, who led the theoretical division at Los Alamos project, said by 1942, J. Robert Oppenheimer, who eventually became the head of the project, had considered the terrible possibility. This led to multiple scientists working on the relevant calculations and finding that it would be incredibly impossible to set the atmosphere on fire using a nuclear weapon. Well, according to 2 Peter, Cephas, they are wrong. They are wrong. There will be also another plague to come after it, shortly after it, and that is 3.5 years of no rain. What that means is anything that hasn't burned up soon will be. Let's go to the UK Independent. Putin has raised the spectre of nuclear war. What if he's not bluffing? Well, if you've been reading the scripture, you know he's not bluffing. Because it is Mother Russia that wears the ribbon of St. George. The colors that are written about here in Revelation 9 and verse 17. The risk several months into a seemingly disastrous military campaign, which has killed many thousands of his own people, is that Putin may now have nothing to lose. He also may not have much more conventional forces. And if he continues this with very little conventional forces left, he's going to have to save some, then he's going to have no choice but to use nukes. He painted himself into a corner. He fell into a trap. And by him falling into a trap, the whole world is now in a trap, a snare. I am not bluffing. Or I'm not bluffing. 3 words uttered by Vladimir Putin in his address to the nation yesterday that appeared to threaten nuclear Armageddon. But people continue to act as if the world is going to continue the way it is. Just like Peter warned in here. I should say Cephas warned here in 2 Cephas 3 verse 3, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts. All you got to do is look at YouTube, TikTok, whatever, social media saying, where is the promise of his coming? A lot of people have said for a long time, nothing has happened. We've reached the age of Renaissance. Since the patriarchs, since the Abbas fell asleep, everything has continued as they were from the beginning of creation. And they claim this, but it's a lie, because they refuse to acknowledge the Great Flood. And even the scientists play it down. Because of this, they are willingly ignorant. They choose to be ignorant that by the word of Jehovah, the heavens and the earth were created, standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that was before was overflowed with water and perished. They don't consider the judgment of the flood. They play it down, as I keep saying. But the heavens and the earth which exist today, by the same word, are kept and stored, reserved unto fire, entering the day of judgment and destruction of impious men. It's not like we weren't warned, and here it is staring at us directly in the face. As I've pointed out, it appears that the preparation was 1 hour a day, a month, a year. That was the time that the 4 messengers had to prepare for that day. Now, I keep asking the question, or I keep making a statement saying, don't you think that the shofar sounds in the book of Revelation happen on Yom Teruah? I think so. Can I prove it? Not really. But, you know, it should be obvious, don't you think? So, what day did it happen? Well, I don't know. But I will say this. I know that a nuclear exchange would not take very long. It would not take a year, a month, and a day, and an hour. In fact, I'm inclined to believe that if it did take that long, the vast majority of the people in the world would be dead before Israel was saved. And I don't think that's the way it's going to work. So what I want to do is I want to go to some Hebrew calendars, and please pardon me, folks, those of you who are Jews, who are Israelis, and who are Hebrew literate. I confess to you now that I am Hebrew illiterate, so you'll have to be patient with me. Please do so. Now, this is on hebcal.com, Hebrew calendar. So, now I'm not saying that peace treaty between Israel and the Arabs is the trigger. It is you Christians that have said that. Let me repeat myself. You Christians claim that the Antichrist is going to make a peace treaty between Israel and the Arabs. Well, Donald J. Trump um, created the so-called Abraham Accords, and they were ratified by Israel and by several Arab countries on the 26th of Elul on the year 5781 on the Hebrew calendar, or September 15th, 2020 on the Roman calendar. Now, just a few days later, the Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah, occurred. But did anything happen a year, an hour, and a day afterward? Did any sort of nuclear bombs go off? No, not in that entire year or season. So then we move to the next one. Okay. Now we go to the first of Tishri, which is Yom Teruah, the festival of the blowing of the shofar, or as the Jews say today, Rosh Hashanah. And yes, the one who corrected me on BitChute, you are absolutely correct. It is Yom Teruah. Okay? Of course, it begins the evening before, but this is the day. Now, what we want to do is count a month, a day, a year, a month, and a day, and an hour. So we go another year. And it would be, once again, let's start counting days. The next year would be, this is the evening of Yom Teruah. And then we go another month. So we go from from the month of Tishri to the first of the next month. I don't know why people always text me while but anyway. So the first of Cheshvan. Okay. Then we go, what was it? And then we go a day. Is that right? We went a month, a year and a month, then a day, and then an hour. So if we go another day and an hour, we'll end up on the 3rd of Cheshvan. And that would be what Romans call October 28th. I hope I did this right. So I could be wrong. Could be a day off, but somewhere in here. Okay? Somewhere in here. Would be an hour and a day and a month and a year of preparation. If it happens this cycle. Well, Russia is threatening almost on a daily basis. In fact, if we go to War News, which is a Greek news website, and I urge everyone to save this particular website if you can. Here we go. Translated to English. Come on. I should have pulled it up earlier. Okay. Finally. Okay. This particular website is probably going to be, for now, the best website, the best news you're going to get out of the world besides Jerusalem Post or Debka.com. I haven't even looked at this particular article yet, but there was one before. Last warning from Sergei Lavrov: the former Ukrainian territories that will be integrated become Russian territory. Our nuclear doctrine will apply. So remember, they're having a referendum in those territories that they invaded. You can say they're fake referendum, you can say they're real. It doesn't really matter. They're going to make sure that these people vote, either by hook or by crook, to join Russia. And once it's Russian territory, Russians have said that anyone who invades or who attacks Russian territory will be a victim of their nuclear doctrine. And while all this is going on, Turkish UAV recorded two Greek ships. They were transporting armored personnel. So Turkey and Greece want to go to war. And now we've got rumors that there's somehow a military coup in China. Do not know if that is true or not. And now North Korea has nuclear missiles. Let me tell you something, and I've said this almost a year ago. You've got four walls in the current military in the military. The first one is diplomacy. The second one is conventional. The third one is biological and chemical. And both biological and chemical warfare has been opened up so often between now and World War I, it's hard to count. So the third wall is still broken. The fourth wall, being nuclear weapons, has not been opened since 1945. Well, as you can see, all indications are they are soon to be opened. And I'm going to take a wild guess. Tomorrow I'll probably be proven wrong, but I'm going to take a wild guess and guess that somewhere from the 1st of Cheshvan, or the 26th of October, to the 24th day of the 9th month, of 24th of Kislev, or December 18th. Somewhere between those dates, I suspect that they'll start launching nukes. And if they do, I also expect the call to come to Jerusalem on this day here. on the 24th of Kislev. Why? Because of what is written in, I'll just go ahead and use this, Haggai. Where are you? Because what is written in Haggai 2. Now, I have debated myself on this particular chapter. What does it mean? And I've had several different opinions, 2 different opinions about it, and I am now starting to narrow down my opinion. So Jehovah talks about the 24th day of the 9th month. That's the day before Hanukkah. In the 2nd year of Darius came the word of Jehovah by Haggai the prophet. And he's saying, ask the priest concerning the Torah, if one bears holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with his skirt do touch bread, pottage, or wine, or oil, or any meat, shall it be holy? And the priest answered and said, no. Then said Haggai, if one that is unclean by a dead body touch any of this, any of it, whether it be the holy meat, or the bread, pottage, meat that was not sanctified as holy, either or, he says, shall it be unclean? All of it will be unclean. He said, it shall be unclean. Then said Haggai, so is this people, so is this nation before me, Israel, says Jehovah. And so is every work of their hand which they offer there, it is unclean. Now, set this date. From this day and upward, or forward, or onward, forward. So we'll say forward, from this day forward. From this day forward, from when the stone was laid upon a stone in the temple of Jehovah, and that was Hanukkah. Since those days, or it should say, come in to a heap of 20 measures, there were but 10. And then came the press fat for to draw out 50 out of the press, but there was only 20. I smote you with blasting, with mildew, and with hail, in all the labors of your hands. Well, this also applies to the second. The second redemption, I should say. But you turn not, or that it says, utters Jehovah. Not that you turn not, it utters Jehovah. Set this day and forward. That's also in future years. So today and in the future. The 24th day of the 9th month, the day that the foundation of Jehovah's temple was laid, set that date. Mark that date. I have expressed this on this YouTube channel over and over and over and over again. That day is a sign of redemption, of gathering all Israel out of Babylon, and the whole world is Babylon, and I'll show you this, show it to you in just a minute. The seed of the barn, the vine and the fig tree, and the pomegranate and the olive tree, to lift and to take, this day will the blessings come. This day is when Jehovah will turn to Israel, bless Israel. This day That's the day. And the word of Jehovah came to Haggai in the 24th day of the month, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Yehuda. Say, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and overthrow the thrones of the kingdoms and the strength of the kingdoms of the Gentiles. The Goy. I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the Sus, that means warbirds or horses. And their riders shall come down every one by the sword of his brother. Zechariah 14. The same event. On that day, says Jehovah of hosts, I will take you, O Zerubbabel, my servant, son of Shealtiel, says Jehovah, and I will make his name a sign. His name is begotten in Babylon. So all Israel begotten in Babylon. Come out of Babylon, my people, and be not partakers of her sins. And those of you who stay, of your own volition, you then become partakers of Babylon's sins. And I have had conversations with people around the world, and some of those conversations really distressed me. One in particular, a Filipino girl who calls herself a Messianic. And when I told her that she was going to have to get on a plane if she wanted salvation and to come to the Middle East, she said no, she can't do that. What do you think? You see, this is how the rapture doctrine has corrupted the minds of people, thinking they're somehow going to get sucked out of the sky and just be dropped or go to heaven. Yehoshua is going to reign in Jerusalem. It's in the book of Revelation, if you bother to crack your Bible open. He's not going to rule from heaven. But a lot of people, in order to get from point A to point B, are going to have to fly in the air, just like Paul said, just like Isaiah the prophet said in Isaiah 60, verse 7 and 8, if you care to read it. So what I'm suggesting is that there's a good possibility that the sixth trumpet sound, the sixth shofar sound, already blew a year ago today. And maybe that is why we are so close to nuclear destruction right now. And if I'm right, and I might not be, but if I am right, then my next guess would be on the 24th day of the 9th month, the call will go out. Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go you out to meet him. Now, I don't know how to say that in Hebrew. I'm not even sure that there's a word for that in Hebrew, but that the Greeks used their word, closest one that they can come up with. But you understand what I'm saying. Now, are you going to set that day or not? Are you going to set this day? Are you going to mark it? or not. Well, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know what I'm going to do. And I hope you do it. And I hope you're ready. I hope you have whatever's available to you, because you might not even be able to go back home. I'll be home, chances are, if I'm not running back and forth to the grocery store. But if it's time to go, it's time to go. But I have my passport up to date in case I need it. I have clothes and shoes packed in case I need it, just to make sure. I also have a mezuzah on the inside of my house, inside the door, with Deuteronomy 30 printed in Hebrew on it inside the scroll. I'm not saying that that's something you should do, but the reason why I did it, I put it inside the house, representing the circumcision of the inward part, and Deuteronomy 30, after the blessings and the curse, the bringing back of all Israel back to the land of their fathers once again. So you might need to have some food storage, and I've said you might need to have food storage. And if you've stored up too much, and then you are leave and you are taken and leave a whole bunch of food here, then let that food then be a blessing to whoever's left behind, and maybe they'll survive the 3.5 years of no rain and all the other plagues, and still make it to the Holy Land afterwards, and they would be either servants or whatever Yehoshua chooses to make them, even being the ones who, inasmuch as you did it to the least of my brethren, you've done it unto me. So I'm just saying, be watchful, be careful, try to have yourself prepared as much as you possibly can for this, because it's not a maybe. Back in 1945, they may have laughed about the possibility. They may have taken bets. They may have ruled it out. But if I were them, I would not be so sure how much they rule it out. Remember what is written in 2 Cephas 3. I think that'll be enough for today. Pay attention, folks. Don't be asleep at the switch.